Hello, everybody. My name is Mehmet Ali Sanlıkol, and that right there is me at age 3 as mini Chopin. You see, I was born to Turkish Cypriot parents in Istanbul, and my mother is a classical piano teacher. So even though I grew up in Turkey, it is fair to say that my training in the house was more with Chopin and Beethoven and Mozart, and really no Turkish music whatsoever. That's because our household was really, truly facing the West, very Eurocentric. And that kind of upbringing really quite stayed with me all the way up to age 25. That's me right there at Istanbul Jazz Festival. I basically progressed from classical Western music to jazz, and that brought me to the city of Boston at age 18 in 1993. I came to Berklee College of Music and started studying with great masters of jazz composition. And then I started a master's degree at New England Conservatory. I was very confident of who I was and where I happened to be at the time with my musical identity and knowledge. Only to be defeated by a simple Turkish folk song. 7 years into my arrival in Boston, one night, suddenly, out of nowhere, just by accident, I got exposed to a particular Turkish folk song. And of course, I heard Turkish music growing up, but I never took it seriously. But this particular song, I did pay attention to it, and there was something about it that I couldn't figure out. Not with all the education I had. And unfortunately, Chopin, Mozart, Beethoven, Charlie Parker, they were unfortunately no help to me. And that did something. How come I could not understand, figure out the music of where I came from? Okay? And so something happened to me, and I started picking up all kinds of Turkish and related musical instruments. I started studying all kinds of ethnic and traditional musics from that region, not just Turkish stuff. And it took a commitment of a decade, 10 years, of really just doing this stuff. Picking up the double reed instrument, zurna, picking up the end-blown ney flute, picking up the long-necked lute, saz, and so on and so forth. After a decade-long period during which I believe I reconstructed my identity, I finally came to a point where I thought that I had internalized these different musical languages, and I started being able to hear them in newer ways. So I'd like to actually present now 2 examples out of some of my more recent compositions. The first one is going to be a video excerpt from a coffeehouse opera. Not really quite your typical grand stage opera. This is a piece called Othello in the Seraglio, in which I have reimagined Shakespeare's Othello as an Ottoman eunuch. But the little part that you're going to hear out of the opera is actually a composition in which I bring together some of the vocal musical qualities of Turkish classical music and Western choral composition. And then we will perform for you live a more recent composition, a jazz composition essentially. It is entitled An Elegant Ritual, and in that piece you will hear basically Turkish Sufi music meet jazz, meet Indonesian gamelan, which is another tradition I took seriously later in life to study in depth. Let's see. Let me get back into this. So, I consider myself lucky because that one folk song enabled me to challenge all of the preconceived notions and the entire Western-centric upbringing I had. I'm lucky, but most of us are not. In fact, in my opinion, today, the world is much more nosier than the way it was when I was in my teens. It's more difficult to shake off our preconceived notions. The kind of globalism that surrounds us, it can become very intrusive. But I think there's a way where we can embrace the globalism while constantly questioning it. I had my preconceived notions, you have yours. We all are subject to them. So I think perhaps the only way forward is by challenging and embracing a kind of uncomfortable globalism. Thank you.